The Rabbits of Midnight. There's a story whispered in every small town, the kind no one writes down, but everyone knows. Ours was about the Rabbits of Midnight. No one wanted to believe it. Grown men in rabbit masks, prowling the streets, slipping into homes. But once you've seen them, you'll never laugh at it again. Before I take you down this road, remember, the horror box never lies. Open it, and what comes out stays with you. If you're new here, subscribe now and step inside. Halfway Dark is waiting for you. I grew up in a town that was so quiet you could hear the wind whistle through the stop signs at night. We didn't lock our doors back then. Nobody thought we had to. That changed the first time the rabbits showed up. At first, it wasn't robberies. It was theater. Houses would be broken into, but nothing was stolen. Instead, the family would wake to find everything rearranged. Couches flipped upside down, food smeared across the walls, and in the center of the mess, a single rabbit mask placed neatly on the floor. The local paper ran stories. Teen pranksters strike again, but the parents weren't laughing. The masks weren't cheap plastic from the party store. They were hand-stitched, detailed, fur-matted like real hair. And the eyes, God, the eyes were holes so black, it felt like looking into a well. The first time I saw them, I was 14. It was late, just past midnight, and I was lying in bed when I heard the crunch of gravel outside. At first, I thought it was my dad coming home late. But then I heard the scrape of shoes, light and quick, like someone skipping across the driveway. I peeked through my blinds. 3 figures stood in the middle of the street, perfectly still. They wore long, tattered coats that brushed the pavement, and on their heads, those masks. Long ears jutting up into the night, pale faces catching the streetlight. I didn't breathe. Then, as if sensing me, one of them tilted its head, not casually. It snapped like a puppet on a broken string. Its hollow eyes locked onto my window. I dropped to the floor. My heart thudded so loud, I thought they'd hear it. When I dared to look again, the street was empty. The town changed after that. Locks went on every door. Some families boarded up their windows, but it didn't stop. One family gone, vanished without a trace. Their house was found empty, but in every room, masks had been nailed to the walls. Police said burglary gone wrong. But what burglar takes nothing and leaves rabbit masks behind? When I was 16, they came from my house. It started with scratching at the back door, then whispers, faint but sharp, like broken glass dragging across wood. My parents thought it was raccoons. I knew better. Around 1A, the power went out. I lit a flashlight, shaking so bad the beam danced across the walls. That's when I heard it, the creak of the floorboards downstairs. They were inside. I peeked over the staircase railing, and my blood froze. 4 of them stood in the living room. Their coats were soaking wet, dripping onto the rug. They didn't move like people. They twitched, jerked, shivered like their joints didn't fit right. And each wore that same grotesque rabbit mask. One of them bent down and picked up my sister's teddy bear. It stroked the fur with stiff fingers, then placed the bear gently on the couch before snapping its head up toward me. I ran. By the time police arrived, the house was empty. Nothing stolen, just one mask left on the kitchen table. The town spiraled after that. Curfews, patrols, but the rabbits always knew how to slip through. People swore they saw them vanish into thin air. Others claimed the masks weren't masks at all, but faces stretched into something inhuman. One theory whispered in hushed tones. They weren't burglars at all. They were collectors, not of money, not of jewelry, but of fear. Years passed. I left town, tried to bury the memory. But last winter, I came back for the funeral of an old friend. That night, I stayed in a cheap roadside motel. I thought I was safe. At 12:07 in the morning, I woke to tapping at the window. When I turned, my stomach dropped. A pale rabbit face stared back at me through the glass, breath fogging the pain. Its teeth, too long, too sharp, were bared in a smile. Behind it, 3 more shadows stood in the parking lot, ears twitching against the moonlight. I locked myself in the bathroom until morning. When I finally emerged, the window was wide open. On the bed lay a mask, damp with morning dew. Now I live in the city. Crowds, noise, neon, all the things that make monsters seem far away. But last night, when I got home from work, I found something waiting on my doorstep. A rabbit mask. This time, the ears were longer, the mouth wider. And when I picked it up, I swear it was still warm. If you ever see them, if you ever hear that scratching, those hurried footsteps in the night, don't watch from the window. Don't try to understand. Because the rabbits of midnight aren't breaking into homes anymore. They're breaking into lives. And once they leave a mask for you, it's already too late. The rabbits of midnight aren't just burglars. They're collectors. What do you think they really want? Fear? Souls? Something worse? Drop your theories below. Let's build the horror box together. The masks multiply. A Rabbits of Midnight story. The first time I saw the new mask, it wasn't on anyone's face. It was lying in the gutter, soaking wet, cracked across one cheek like porcelain, left too long in the rain. And yet the eye holes seemed to follow me. Do you know what it feels like to find a mask before it finds you? I was walking home from the diner after the late shift, 1 in the morning. Streets empty except for neon buzzing and the drip of leaking gutters. This town always feels half asleep, like something is twitching in its dreams just under the surface. I bent down to pick the mask up, thinking maybe it was a Halloween leftover. But it wasn't plastic. It was carved, handmade. A rabbit's face with ears too long and a smile stretched too wide. Someone had worn it down to the edges, like teeth grinding in the dark. I should have left it, but I carried it home. That's the rule here. You pick up what the town leaves for you. On my counter, water pooled around it, sharp and metallic, like pennies soaking in rain. Then I noticed the worst detail. The mask had 2 sets of straps, one to tie around your head. The other, thinner and sharper, looked like they were meant for someone's wrists. At work the next day, I mentioned it to Kane, one of my regulars. Old man, quiet, barely speaks. He stopped chewing mid-bite, fork hanging in the air. "They're making more," he whispered. His eyes darted toward the door, then back to me. I asked him what he meant, but he just shook his head. "You didn't see me. You didn't hear me." And he left without paying. That night, I tried to throw the mask away. I tied the bag tight, shoved it deep into the can, wheeled it to the curb. But when morning came, the trash can was empty and the mask was back on my counter. Dry now, clean, waiting for me to put it on. I thought I could leave town. I got in my car, drove straight for the highway. But every mile marker I passed had a mask nailed to it. One, then another, then another. Each face smiled wider, ears longer, until the highway became a corridor lined with pale rabbit faces. Their empty eyes followed me as I drove. I turned back. I don't know what's worse, seeing someone in one of those masks, or realizing the masks don't need anyone inside them anymore. At night, I've watched them drift down the street, white ovals bobbing in the dark like lanterns. No footsteps, just the drag of straps across the asphalt. If you're still here, listening, remember this. The rabbits of midnight multiply through memory. They follow anyone who knows their shape. That means you too. Subscribe, so there's at least a record that you heard this voice. Otherwise, when the masks come, they'll pretend you were never here at all. I tried burning the mask in a barrel behind the house. Flames curled high, but the face didn't blacken. Instead, it softened, melted like wax. And when it reformed, it wasn't one face anymore. It was 3, 3 smaller masks fused together. They aren't being carved. They're being bred. The town shifted after that. People wore their sleeves too long, tugging them down over their hands. Children chanted strange rhymes outside the gas station. 1 makes 2. 2 makes 4. 4 makes more. At night, I heard scratching under my floorboards. Something tunneling, chewing through the foundation. I followed the sound once. Through an alley, behind a dumpster, to a storm drain cracked open. Piled inside were dozens of masks, not discarded, not forgotten, waiting. And as I crouched there, I heard breath through their hollow mouths. Not dozens, hundreds, all stacked like eggs in a nest. I thought about putting one on, just to see. But I remembered the second set of straps, the ones meant for wrists, and I realized they weren't masks at all. They were cages. Faces to lock onto you until you forget you had one of your own. The diner closed last week. No notice, just gone. Chairs still stacked inside, coffee cups on the counter. But every booth, every seat, had a mask neatly placed, waiting for someone to sit down. Now the sound has changed. Not scratching anymore. Gnawing, something chewing its way into my house. I don't know how long until the walls give way. I don't know how long until I hear the straps tightening in the dark. If you hear it too, don't search your closet, don't check under the bed. They don't hide there. They hide where you least expect. Behind your voice, behind your reflection, behind the thought that whispers, what if I'm already wearing one? And if you think you're safe, because you never touched the mask, remember, they don't need the mask anymore. They only need the story. And now the story is in you. So tonight, when you see a pale oval glowing at your window, when you hear straps sliding across your floor, don't look too long. Because the masks don't just multiply, they replace. And if you hear soft laughter, high and breathless like a rabbit caught in the dark, don't follow it. That isn't laughter. That's me, still trying to get my face back. The Burrow, a Rabbits of Midnight story. I always thought the rabbits were just masks in the streets, shadows in alleys, whispers in the dark. I was wrong. They have a home. It started with a hole in the ground. I was walking past the old factory on the outskirts of town when I noticed the earth had shifted, a tunnel half hidden beneath debris. Something about it drew me in, like it knew I was coming. The air inside smelled damp and metallic, like rusted pipes and wet fur. I turned on my flashlight, hands trembling. The walls of the tunnel were lined with carved mark symbols I didn't recognize. Scratches and patterns, long enough to look like writing. I paused. Did someone live here? No, not someone. Something lived here. A soft tapping echoed through the dark, like fingernails drumming against wood. I froze. The sound came closer, but I didn't hear footsteps. Then I saw them, eyes glinting in the dark, small and round. Rabbit eyes, not masks this time. Real eyes. They disappeared as quickly as I saw them. I followed, stepping carefully along the dirt floor. The tunnel stretched on endlessly, twisting, turning, folding in ways that made my head ache. It was like the earth itself was alive, keeping me moving toward a destination I didn't want to reach. Somewhere deep in the tunnel, I found doors, dozens of them, carved into the walls. Small doors, too small for humans. But behind each, the faint sound of breathing, scratching, soft laughter. I knew the rabbits were behind them, watching, waiting. I tried to back away. The tunnel had disappeared. Every exit led deeper. The walls shifted, mirrors appearing in the dirt, reflecting not my face, but dozens of rabbit faces layered on top of each other. Their smiles stretched impossibly wide, teeth glinting in the flashlight beam. I should have turned back then, but I didn't. There was something I had to see. A strange compulsion pushed me forward, past the doors, past the eyes and the shadows. The air grew colder, My breath came out in mist. I noticed the walls were lined with shelves, filled with masks, dozens, hundreds, stacked neatly. Not just rabbit masks. Faces I recognized from town. Some twisted, some smiling, some blank. And then I heard a soft scratching, growing louder. Something was moving inside one of the masks. I realized with a chill that these weren't just masks. They were containers. A whisper behind me made me spin. "Welcome home," it said, breathless. No body, just the voice, coming from every direction at once. The tunnel seemed to pulse, expanding and contracting, alive. I felt trapped, swallowed by it. If you're hearing this story, remember awareness is dangerous. The rabbits of midnight thrive on knowing. Subscribe so someone remembers you, so your story isn't lost when the masks find you. I pressed on, following the scratching deeper into the burrow. Eventually, the tunnel opened into a cavern. The ceiling was low, carved from dirt and bone. There, a horde of rabbits moved, but not like normal rabbits. They stood upright, pale and thin, long ears twitching. Their masks were perfect faces, smiling. Some had human eyes peeking through. I froze. One stepped forward. It tilted its head, sniffed the air. Its gaze locked on me. The cavern was alive with sound. Hundreds of tiny claws skittering over dirt. The air was thick with their breath, their whispers, the metallic scent of masks rubbing together. I realized I wasn't just watching them. They were watching me, learning me. I tried to leave. Every step I took led me back to the center of the cavern. The rabbits multiplied. For every one I saw, two more appeared behind it, like they were being born from the shadows. Somehow, I ended up in a room at the back. A single massive rabbit mask rested on a pedestal, larger than any I had seen before. Its eyes glowed faintly red. I knew instinctively that this was their leader, their source. If I wanted to survive, I had to destroy it. I grabbed a piece of debris and hurled it at the mask. The moment it hit, a sound erupted, a screech, high and terrible, rattling the walls. The rabbits convulsed, a wave of movement and sound. The mask didn't break. It stared, and I realized I couldn't win. Not here, not in their home. I ran, or at least I tried. The tunnels shifted. Every exit I took led back into the cavern. I was trapped in a labyrinth of earth, bone, and mask. Their whispers grew louder. I felt them entering my mind, tugging, pulling at memories, filling them with rabbit faces. Hours, or maybe minutes, I don't know, later, I collapsed in a smaller tunnel. My flashlight was dead. I could hear their breathing, soft and patient, just behind the walls. I understood then that the burrow wasn't just a place. It was a living trap. A mind-consuming maze designed to make you a rabbit without ever touching a mask. I thought of leaving, of screaming, of calling for help. But the town outside seemed far away. The tunnels stretched on forever, the rabbits multiplying behind every wall, in every shadow. I was alone, aware, and hunted. When I finally crawled to a narrow opening near the surface, I saw the stars. I thought I was free. But in the dirt at my feet, a single mask lay waiting. Wet, smiling, and staring up at me with hollow eyes. I didn't touch it. I left it there. I ran, but I know it followed. I can feel it now, in the corners of my vision, in reflections that aren't mine, in shadows that twitch when I look away. If you ever find a hole in the ground, or hear scratching beneath an abandoned building, or see masks stacked neatly in the dark, don't investigate. Don't step inside. The burrow doesn't just house rabbits. It breeds fear, memory, and inevitability. And if tonight, in your dreams, you hear the whispers call your name softly, don't ignore them. They're already inside. The final hunt. A Rabbits of Midnight story. The night was unusually quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums and makes the hairs on your arms stand straight. I knew they were coming. I could feel it in the shadows, in the twitch of a branch outside my window, in the faint scratching behind the walls. The rabbits had grown bolder. Not just masks, not just shadows. Actual sightings now. One at the corner of the street, staring with those hollow eyes. Another sitting on a fence post, head tilting unnaturally, ears twitching, body still. Waiting. Always waiting. I tried barricading the doors, locking the windows, but nothing worked. The masks kept appearing on the doorknobs, stacked neatly on my counters, staring up at me with hollow, perfect faces. It was as if they had learned patience, planning. They weren't just hunting anymore. They were strategizing. I knew what I had to do. I had to enter the burrow again. The tunnels, the horde, the leader mask. It had to be destroyed. Or at least confronted. I packed supplies, flashlight, rope, and a heavy wrench. Anything I could use to survive. As I approached the old factory, the smell hit me first. Wet earth, metal, and something sharp like 1,000 tiny teeth grinding into each other. The hole was still there, gaping, inviting. I felt a pull, a compulsion I couldn't resist. I stepped inside. The tunnels were alive, shifting beneath my feet. Every step I took echoed into multiple directions. Whispers rose from the walls, chanting, calling names, listing every fear I'd ever had. He's here. She's here. They're here. I tried to focus on the light of my flashlight, but the shadows danced too quickly, forming shapes I didn't want to see. If you're hearing this, remember, the rabbits follow the story. They track awareness. Subscribe so someone knows you survived, because once you're inside, memory alone might not save you. I reached the cavern. The leader mask sat on its pedestal, larger than I remembered, eyes glowing faintly red. The horde moved around it, circling silently. I could hear their breathing, soft and omnipresent. I raised the wrench, heart pounding, and swung. The mask didn't break. Instead, the leader tilted its head, and the rabbits surged. Hundreds, maybe thousands, all moving toward me. The tunnels twisted, multiplied, and I realized the ground itself was part of them. They could fold the earth like paper. Escape was impossible. Somehow, I ran. Somehow, I dodged masks leaping from the walls, shadows stretching to trap me. I reached a ladder leading to a shaft, climbed desperately. The horde's whispers followed me up the metal rungs, calling my name in hundreds of tiny voices, all simultaneously. I emerged onto a rooftop. Fog blanketed the town. Below me, the streets were crawling with pale shapes. Not just shadows forms, humanoid, but wrong. Rabbit ears, twisted smiles, moving like smoke. They spread through the town silently, an unstoppable tide. I knew then what the burrow was for. The masks, the horde, the tunnels, they were breeding a world where the rabbits could exist freely. And anyone aware of them was fair game. Awareness was the bait, memory the trap. I tried luring them back underground. I smashed streetlights, threw debris, anything to create shadows, to confuse them. But they adapted instantly. The leader mask appeared atop the factory roof, tilting its head. Its stare pierced my chest, and I felt it reach into my mind, brushing memories, twisting my fears, folding me into the hunt itself. I had one final idea. The fire escape. The old water tower. Maybe from above, I could trap them, burn them, sever the connection. I ran, slipping past streets crawling with pale shapes. The town had changed. Familiar landmarks looked foreign, warped by their presence. I reached the water tower. It groaned under my weight, shaking, but I climbed. From the top, I could see everything. The horde moving in wave-like motions, the streets distorted, the town folding in on itself. I set the tower on fire, hoping the smoke, the chaos, might hold them off. The horde didn't falter. The masks on rooftops, in windows, in alleyways, all stared up at me. Hundreds of rabbit faces, glowing faintly, smiling, waiting. The leader tilted its head and vanished, reappearing on the tower rim. Its glow spread into my vision, and I realized there's no final battle. Only survival. Only running. I jumped and landed in darkness. The town below me was gone, replaced by the endless tunnels of the burrow. The masks multiplied instantly around me, circling, whispering, folding the ground beneath my feet. My flashlight flickered out. I was swallowed. I don't know how long I've been here. The tunnels stretch on, endless, alive, always moving. The rabbits are patient. I hear whispers calling names I don't recognize, masks forming in the walls. I am aware. I am hunted. I am part of the burrow now. If you ever hear scratching beneath a building or see pale shapes at night, remember, they are coming. They only need memory. They only need awareness. They don't need masks anymore. And if tonight, in your dreams, you feel the pull of the earth, the soft whispers calling your name, don't resist. They are already inside you. The final hunt doesn't end, it only spreads. Every mask, every shadow, every whisper draws you deeper. How long can you resist the rabbits of midnight? Subscribe and keep your name alive in the darkness.